I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned the economic situation in the West deteriorating. The war in Ukraine has had a lot of, so shall we say, a large ripple effect with a lot of changes globally, right? There was this Tehran summit recently. Can I get your thoughts just briefly, generally, about this shift to a multipolar world? What's happening between Russia and Iran, Russia and China, and the nuclear talks resuming today in Vienna here? Just what do you think is happening? Because the shift has been really accelerated. Wouldn't you agree?
It has been. One could say that the U.S. and Europe and the G7 have basically run into what we'll call the perfect storm of conditions that conspired against the outcome they were hoping to get through the imposition of massive sanctions against Russia. First of all, you can't talk about sanctioning Russian energy in a region that is heavily dependent upon Russian energy without having a viable plan B of where we're going to get energy if Russian energy is cut off. The United States promised Europe that there was a plan B, that this would happen. And it turns out that it didn't. I mean, the United States went all around the world, tin cup in hand, and couldn't get they crawled to Saudi Arabia.
Venezuela too.
Venezuela, Algeria was pressured.
That might explain the resumption of talks today, maybe.
It might. But well, I'll get to the talks in a second, because I think there's something else that explains it as well. But so we had that. Then I don't think the United States and Europe and the GC understand or appreciate the reality of sanctions fatigue. And it's not just fatigue in terms of people tired of the inconvenience of sanctions. It's the ire that is generated globally at the outrage of the arrogance of the United States and Europe to use, economic sanctions as a geopolitical tool, to leverage, to compel, to intimidate, to blackmail nations into supporting policies they otherwise wouldn't support, policies that are not in the best interest. So I think, when the United States spoke of imposing sanctions, there was this notion that the world was going to jump on board. But the exact opposite happened. The vast majority of the world refused to participate, continued to do business with Russia. And then lastly, I think they misunderstood the depth of the Russian-Chinese cooperation. I don't know why they would. Any sane Russian observer and Chinese observer would understand that, what happened on February 4th when Putin met Xi Jinping in Beijing, and they executed this 5,000-word joint statement, that history didn't start on February 4th, because that statement was many years in the making. That statement is the byproduct of increased Russian and Chinese frustration over the rules-based international order over American singularity. And there's this frustration that this could not be allowed to continue. And so, when they came up with that statement, that means they already had in place an alternative, a multipolar world. The Trans-Eurasian Economic Union, BRICS. I mean, the stunning rise of BRICS. It's amazing how few people knew what BRICS was on, for instance, February 4th of 2022. And today, everybody's talking about BRICS because the G7 is a joke, just an absolute fundamental joke. They've shown themselves incapable of.
It's not even close.
Competence. The G20, here's the irony, if you subtract the G7 from the G20, what do you have? BRICS. So, the G20 is getting ready to collapse because the G7 refuses to meet with Russia. You think the Russians and the Chinese are panicked about that? No, because they got BRICS, and BRICS is expanding. It already includes Iran, Argentina, and now they're talking about expanding it to include Turkey, Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, exactly.
Want to come in and play
They
ball.
They want to jump ship. They're jumping ship now.
So I think this perfect storm of sanctions fatigue, of energy, the failure to have a viable energy alternative, and then the unwillingness to accept that Russia and China are working together in a fundamental fashion that goes beyond simple bilateral relations, but to include a relationship with the rest of the world that's based upon respect, genuine respect. I mean, the United States is the only way people respect us now. It's not, Biden held, his summit for democracy. Do you really think people rallied to the summit for democracy because they had all read, the history of the formation of the United States and wanted Jeffersonian democracy to grow in their country, and they came in with starry-eyed going, "Oh my God, American democracy is so beautiful." Nobody came because they know the ugliness of American democracy. They know the reality of it. They went because the United States bullied them into it. Bottom line, the people who participated were bribed by American financial aid, et cetera, to attend. That's not how you win. You don't win respect by having people. I mean, imagine me. Let's say I'm going to hold a barbecue, and I go around town and I flash $100 bills that I don't have, but let's just pretend I have them for a moment. And I say, everybody come to my barbecue. And they all come to the barbecue. And then next week I say, hey, I want you all to come to the barbecue, but I don't have any more $100 bills. I just want you to come because you like me. They go, no, we came for the money and the food. We don't like you. That's the reality. Nobody likes America anymore.
I like you, Scott, for the record.
I'm an American. But
I'd come to the barbecue.
Well, thank you. You're invited anytime. The grill's ready.
Thank you.
And I got a couple steaks in the refrigerator. I can even put together some vegan food if that's your thing. But
very kind.
I try my best. But the point is, America is no longer a nation that garners respect because we are indeed the bright city on the hill. America is a bully, and worse than that, we're the high school bully. That's now hit middle age, and we're fat and we're balding, our teeth are bad, and our breath stinks, and we haven't lifted weights in a long time, so our punch isn't what we think it is, and the world just isn't afraid of us anymore. And you combine all these factors, and Russia and China have created an effective counterbalance to American hegemony, to the rules-based international order. They call it the law-based international order. It's grounded in the principles and values of the United Nations Charter. Imagine that.
Wow.
And it's a real counterweight to what the United States, NATO, Europe, the G7 have put out there. And so I think Europe is running into this reality that they miscalculated, and now they're going to pay the price. I don't wish harm on anybody. I certainly hope that there are brilliant economic minds in Europe right now that have found a solution to make life livable for all of Europe in the coming winter. But I also read Harry Potter and recognize that the various spells that are cast are fiction, not real. That I no matter how much I wave a stick and say the magic words, things aren't going to happen. The Europe is in for a big problem. I think Great Britain just announced, that they are in a recession with 13% inflation.
Oh boy.
I can guarantee you that the inflation rate is probably closer to 20 because the way they calculate inflation is not reflective of the real, price increases across the board. The same thing here in the United States. They talk about, double-digit inflation, but they put a number one at the front. I'm here to tell you right now, inflation is closer to 23%. That's just the way it is. And we are in a recession, two consecutive quarters of negative growth. Biden can spin it any way he wants with employment statistics.
The Putin price hike.
And that doesn't mean that the Russians aren't suffering, but these sanctions were supposed to collapse Russia. They didn't. Yeah. These sanctions are supposed to destroy the Russian economy. Didn't happen. And we talk about energy to show you the hypocrisy of the West. Germany, we refuse. Yeah, the ruble. Man, I should have bought rubles a long time ago.
We should have bought rubles for real.
Actually, I could have done the George Soros thing: buy the ruble when it was 120, sell it 62. A lot of money,
man.
But no, I'm not a money speculator. Keep relaxed. But The thing is, the Russians, the Germans, we're not going to buy Russian oil. There's a principled stand if you ever heard one. I mean, you know what? You don't want to buy Russian oil? Don't buy Russian oil. Except you are buying Russian oil.
Yeah.
Except that because you've said you're not going to buy it directly, Russia's selling it to India.
There you go.
There you go. And India turns around, jacks the price up, and now you have to buy it from India at a far greater price than what you would have paid if you bought it from Russia to begin with.
What is this stupidity? I can't compute what's going on. It's unbelievable stupidity. Money wasting, screwing people around, screwing the average Joe around. It's really something.
Politicians are funny creatures. They live in a fantasy world of their own making. They actually believe that when they all get together, that somehow the mere fact that you have so many great minds, and I put that in quotation, located in one place, that when they speak, it means something. That when they put up a PowerPoint, it means something. And it could if their words were attached to reality, but they got it all wrong about sanctions. There's one thing to say we're going to have to tighten our belts. It's another thing to say that we're going to have to take the belt off and burn it and cut our pants up and burn it because we got no fuel. I mean, you're just going to go naked at that point in time, but they can't admit that they're going to go naked. The beauty of this, though, is that because Europe is governed ostensibly by democracies are self-policing institutions. And because most democracies operate under that age-old truism put forward by the raging Cajun himself, James Carville, back in 1992, it's the economy, stupid. By getting it so wrong on the economy, the European population, I believe, is going to self-correct by removing the politicians that got it wrong and replacing them with people who, while they may not be pro-Russia or sympathetic to Russia, will have to be more responsive to the needs and wants of the people, which means that they're going to have to enact economic policies that are reality-based. And if the only source of energy out there is Russian energy, then reality dictates that you're going to have to buy Russian energy.